All right, everyone, welcome back into another fantasy golf video. We are going to be breaking down the Travelers Championship in this video, giving you guys my favorite picks for DFS and then also my favorite outright bets as well. But first, we're going to start off with a recap of the US Open. A lot to break down. It is going to be a little bit more of a podcast style to start the video. Then we'll get into the normal format of this video. Hope you guys enjoyed the coverage. And so with that, let's go ahead and get into this week's video. So let's talk about the winner of the US Open. Now, a lot of you guys are instantly thinking JJ Spaun, obviously. And we'll talk about JJ Spaun in just a second, but the true winner of the US Open was the 9to5 Golf X account, Twitter account. There was a post that went viral. Let's just touch on that real quick. So yes, the post I'm talking about is this one. Sam Burns trying to win the US Open. If you guys have not seen this yet, go ahead and check it out. This is on the 9to5 Golf X account. If you guys have not followed that yet, do so as well. There's the 9to5 Golf main X account and then this. It's just a fun account, obviously going viral. Some good stuff there. But that really brings up what I want to talk about there with JJ Spaun, who obviously did end up winning the US Open. Let's just talk about the 9to5 data. So guys, as always, the 9to5 data is a little bit different than, Eric Paulsing's takes, which is you guys can either just go straight out the 9to5 data or take my takes off of it. Okay, so the 9to5 data is set up just based off of previous year's data from the PGA Tour, and then it's just formulated and curated for you guys and for myself to be able to go in and see kind of maybe why the data likes a certain player, and then we can decide what to do from there. So the 9to5 data did have JJ Spaun as a good outright bet or a good long shot bet, someone that you could get to if you were looking for a long shot bet. Now, included in there was Sam Burns. We'll talk about him in just a second. Spaun was ranked as a 33rd overall player in the 9to5 model. Okay, so not bad there. And then the 9to5 data tag also had him as a player that was considered a mid-exposure play. So his win overall was not too crazy, right? A lot of people might be saying it was, but it wasn't too off the board. I would say how it was set up for him to win, though, was like probably the only way that he was going to win, especially given the weather delay. He was having a terrible round through the front nine, shot a 40 in the first round, or on the front nine of the final round, and then obviously came through after the weather delay. I think it's pretty safe to say that outright wise for us, I do think that without the weather delay, Sam Burns probably does end up winning that. So a little bit bittersweet as, one of the clear and only top end golfers that you ever went out of your way to bet that was likely to win, 8-1. That was kind of one of the first clicks. Just clearly someone that was a great value, 8-1, easy click. He was a top 5 player in the 9to5 model. It did feel a little bit like cheated. To me, guys, this is a good summary of the US Open. Look at this is just a screenshot from a shot. This is him in anger, slightly going down. As you guys can see, his ball tailing off to the left. A lot of people are saying that this shot did not cost him the US Open, and I would say it clearly did. Okay, now you would argue that the weather delay did as well. If you're Sam Burns and you get that weather delay, okay, trying to win your first major, and you're currently in the lead, that's going to sit on you a little bit mentally. We just saw what happened with him 2 weeks ago with a 5-foot putt to win, and I thought he'd be able to handle, that a little bit better, actually at the US Open. And I do think if it was just a full round, no stoppage, he would have been fine. And then you get the weather, and then you get the unlucky lie like that, okay, which obviously leads to a double bogey. At that point, if you're a golfer, you're out of it mentally, okay? He did just miss a short birdie on the previous hole. I get that. But that's a double bogey. At that point, basically, when you hit that ball and you see it tailing off to the left, you know that your tournament's basically over. And you kind of feel like you're screwed over by not one, but two rules officials because you brought two of them in to get the correct decision. That's kind of BS. And to me, guys, I felt like, honestly, Oakmont was one of the worst managed US Opens in quite some time. I ended up putting out this poll just to see kind of what people thought. And I know people hate LA Country Club, and I do. But I'm surprised by it. I put them on there just so Oakmont or Chambers Bay wouldn't get too much hate, for example, or too much recency bias. No, people hate LA Country Club for whatever reason. And for me, I just want a course to play fair or to play equal. Okay, you hit a good shot, players are going to get rewarded for hitting a good shot equally. You hit a bad shot, players are going to get penalized equally for a bad shot. The issue that I had with Oakmont is maybe not Oakmont, although to have a tournament decided by a course not being able to keep up with the weather. I mean, that's pretty insane to me. It's pretty clear that as I'm recording this video, we should probably be figuring out who the actual US Open winner is. Okay, that is what should be. They should have played on Monday. They shouldn't have went back out and played that. That's not to take away from JJ Spawn at all, okay? And it's not I'm not just saying that because of Sam Burns. It's just an annoying thing that happened. And I get it. If you can finish a golf tournament on Sunday, regardless of what tournament it is, you want to do that. I get that. But the USGA, they're just making mistakes, and it's annoying. A lot of people hate on them for Chambers Bay. I get that. That's why I include that in there. But that also brings up a funny story that I just want to talk to you guys about because it is funny. So before I started to do 9 to 5 sports full time, I did have a job as a marketing manager at a private country club. Very fun job. It was a job in which it was owned by a project management golf course company that actually hosted or was in charge of Chambers Bay. And just during the interview for that position, I was talking to them. They're obviously talking about it. Part of the interview was just them talking about, oh yeah, we own a bunch of, or we manage a bunch of courses, a bunch of properties. They mentioned Chambers Bay, and as he's saying the Jordan Spieth major, I'm literally saying the Dustin Johnson major. Which, if you're talking to a project management company that owns the course that got a lot of slack for losing the greens, probably not the best thing to say to them. Thankfully, I still got the job, but it's just when that came out of my mouth, I was like, ooh, as he's saying Jordan Spieth, like that's how they want you to remember that tournament. Oh, it's the Jordan Spieth tournament. Not the Dustin Johnson 3-putt because they lost the greens, right? Well, that's honestly how I personally feel about Oakmont. Like, I will probably remember this more as maybe not the tournament that JJ Spawn won necessarily, but more the tournament where Oakmont lost the course. And I don't want to complain. It was still a compelling US Open as a whole, but I don't know. I do get a little bit sick of people just in general griping about the course needing to play difficult. I don't know if you guys remember early on in the season, there was people out there like kind of complaining about the Cognizant Classic not playing as difficult as it typically does in round one. And it turned out that was basically just due to like rain being on the course and the conditions being a little bit more favorable for, the early portions of that. But like, that's the thing. It's like, you're not going to intentionally make a course play unfair depending on where your ball ends up. Okay. And so that's where, I don't know, I like the US Open. The US Open is typically predictable. I still would be saying this had Sam Burns won because we would have hit 5 straight winners for the US Open. I would still be saying that. It just, I don't know. Am I crazy about this, guys? Like, to me, it didn't sit right is the best way to describe it. Just that the whole end of the tournament did not sit right. Maybe it was due to them showing Tiger's highlights for a US Open that no one cares about. That was strange to me. Like, that's just so in the past. That was strange. And I get you can't control the weather and whatnot, but it felt like one of the more disappointing tournaments thus far this year for a tournament that is typically my favorite. It typically is because you know what you're getting. I don't know. To me, like hitting in the thick rough in one spot and then maybe 5 feet in a different spot, it's sitting up better, whereas 5 feet in the other spot, it's still in the thick rough. It sits down. I don't know. I think it needs to be equally balanced in terms of how it penalizes players. And that's why people, truly love Augusta National the most. There's certain spots to miss and you know where to miss. And maybe it's just the fact that they got rid of a bunch of their trees and whatnot. I don't know. I don't like to complain too much, but that was a funny point that I wanted to start this video off with. Let's go ahead and get into just a couple of other talking points as well. Really just one other one. And I think it's a fun one there as well. And then we're going to get into the picks. So let's talk about, I just want to bring this up. So Foreplay, they did kind of just, they stole my tweet, kind of. Okay. I got the video from TikTok, which Barstool had then posted. They saved it and posted onto their TikTok from someone's IG account. And then after my tweet went viral, they ended up posting this as well. They didn't give me credit. That's fine. That kind of brings me into another point. Let's talk about something that got some traction on Wednesday. Okay, so I don't follow these guys at all. I don't see the value in listening to them. I don't know. To me, I like to have value. I like to have a purpose to listening to something rather than just pure entertainment, if you want to call it that. I'm not talking crap. If people enjoy that, that's fine. I like to have something that provides value, some insight, some actionable information. I don't get that. But let's talk about Riggs from Barstool. So people were dogging on him for having a 4 handicap and then playing Oakmont and then shooting a 106. which honestly, 106 at that course in retrospect, not terrible, I would say, whatever. The thing I want to call out, guys, if you are someone that's going to establish a handicap, and people are saying that he's lying, there's some videos of him having a terrible swing and just insinuating that it's impossible for him to be a 4 handicap, which I would also come to that same conclusion. I don't give a crap if he's a 4 handicap or not. This is just some insightful stuff about anyone that's thinking about keeping a handicap or anyone that does have a handicap. I don't keep a handicap because I don't care. Okay. And now being a dad of 2 children, don't really have time to get to the golf course as much. I enjoy putting out content. That's kind of where my free time goes, is just working pretty much. But that being said, if you are someone that does golf a lot, wants to keep a handicap, or does have a handicap, the whole freaking point of having a handicap is to not have a good handicap. No one in their mind, if they are an intelligent person, would intentionally lie to have a better handicap than what they play as. No, the whole point of having a freaking handicap is to not have a good handicap so that when you play against others, you can beat them. Now, I think that's soft. That's why I don't keep a handicap. I don't care if you can beat me straight up. That's good for you. You're just a better golfer. I don't want to get some freaking win because you're a better golfer than me, but not as good as you should have been that day. That is just stupid to me. But if you are playing events where handicap is a part of it, the whole point is to not have a good handicap. So it's funny that people are complaining about him maybe potentially not being smart enough to keep a correct handicap. Like, why would you lie? Is the male ego that fragile that they need to have a handicap that says they're a good golfer, even though that when you go to the course, you're just making yourself look stupid? When you go and play an event with handicaps or play someone based off your handicap where you always lose because of that? No, that is stupid. Okay, so I want to talk about that. There's a lot of traction on that. I thought it was fun as well. Let me know your guys' thoughts on that. If you guys think I'm completely wrong about that, let me know in the comment section below. But with that, let's go ahead now and get into more of a recap from last week. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the good, the bad, and maybe potentially ugly. So I guess the ugly would be no first round leader bet there. Really didn't come close at all. That was a little bit annoying there. We were able to have a pretty decent, matchup tournament bets here, both of those hitting, and just in general for the tournament, it was very solid for 3-ball bets, 3-way bets, and then also head-to-head bets as well. Although round 4 head-to-head bets were not good. They went 0 for 2 and then 1 tie in round 4, but round 2, round 3 were pretty solid, and then 3-way bets and 3-ball bets were very solid throughout the whole week. About 12 units of profit just with those bets in total there. And then outright wise, guys, a little bit unfortunate to not hit Sam Burns there. Other than that, kind of ugly, right? We did have Tommy Fleetwood double bogey on 18 to miss the cut. That was also very unfortunate. And let's just get into the player pool as well. So Bryson and Fleetwood missing the cut. Now Bryson just ended up having a bad tournament. Neiman as well missed the cut. Now I did talk about Neiman as well. I did explain my thoughts on him, I think, pretty well. So I was basically like, yes, I'm still going to be on him. He's clearly mispriced, but let's not be shocked if he does struggle. So I did make some educated lineups where I intentionally was fading him pretty much. And that's simply because in terms of like his specialist stats, he was not a good fit in that regard, specialist wise. He was the second to worst elite golfer in the field in that stat. And that's where in some lineups I intentionally fade him. But then from there, Morikawa, Xander, Connors, Rahm, Siwoo, Pendrith, Lowry, Lowry missed a cut. That was a little bit unfortunate, but from that point on, pretty good stuff, I would say there from that point on. And for me personally, I will say the Sam Burns bogey on 18 was also frustrating there as well. His bogey on 18 put me from 7th place to I think 12th place in the GPP, which ended up being a decent amount of money there. Also, his blow up, the weather delay, took me from 3rd to 12th then as well. So going into weather delay, looking like I could take down GPP, and then after the weather delay, kind of happy to finish 12th, to be honest with you. But overall, a solid week. We would take it. Hopefully this week's going to be a little bit better. This week is honestly a little bit more annoying though, because we have the Travelers Championship, which is another signature event. And I don't know about you guys, but I do kind of get sick of the signature events after a major. I would rather have a full tournament field event personally. I wouldn't mind if these bigger name golfers would have the week off, and maybe we get some, actually like Keegan Bradley, players like that playing a little bit more. It's Scotty. That's the problem, to be honest with you, where after a major, we had to figure out whether it's going to be Scotty or the field. Now, Scotty did have a terrible U.S. Open last year as well. Terrible. He finished 41st. He still made the cut. But in regards to Scottie Scheffler's play, he had a terrible tournament at the U.S. Open last year and then ended up winning this event in a playoff last year. So we have to deal with that. That's the annoying part. Also, it's going to be a no-cut event. So for PGA DFS purposes, we know exactly what we need to do, which is a studs and duds approach. To me, it's a little bit boring. Honestly, I don't like that. There's really not too much strategy to it. It's being on Scottie. If he shows up, we're good. Maybe Xander, and then just nailing the value plays. And that's pretty much it. And it's in terms of like content, I don't necessarily love doing that. Now, the interesting thing about this course is a par 70 course, and it's a shorter track. Okay, so it does have a lot of the same like features as U.S. Open courses typically, where tighter fairways. You typically need to be accurate. Ball striking, total driving typically pop up a decent amount. You can't be making big mistakes, but you also do need to be scoring. And so let's just go ahead and take a peek here at course history, guys. Course history is decently relevant here in terms of like course history relevance. It's typically top 10 each year. So players that have played well at this tournament in the past tend to give you the desired result the year that you're looking at that data. Now, where that gets interesting is something like Brian Harman. Brian Harman's been playing not the best golf recently, but this tournament he's excelled at, only missing the cut once, which was the COVID year, which who really cares? You can kind of write that off. Patrick Cantlay has dominated this course as well. We look at Xander, Rory, like that there from him. Scottie's popping up in there. So a lot of golfers have at least played this course. They are familiar with this course, and to me, that is decently huge. Now, when we go ahead and take a peek at the top stat fits, the top stats that we're looking at are going to be effective birdie to bogey ratio. So birdie bogey ratio attached with bogey avoidance. This is a course that can lead you to making some mistakes. Now, typically speaking, it is a easier scoring track in terms of the winning score. That being said, we do need to kind of raise up the floor of some golfers, so that's why we're looking at that. And then ball striking, total driving, it typically is that course, but it is more of an accuracy course, so a good drive percentage is something that we're going to be looking at. The top stat fits. A lot of the golfers actually played well last week are going to be some of the top stat fits, so that's interesting there. So we got Scottie up in there, JJ Spawn, Robert McIntyre, Kevin Yu, Kyle Morikawa. Interesting plays. And then you got Substraka, who's always kind of been hit or miss. Daniel Berger kind of been hit or miss this year. So a lot of interesting golfers that are popping up in there. Now, while we're here, let's just take a peek at the specialist here. I'm actually kind of curious myself. And maybe, let's just show off the 9-to-5 custom model, the new tool as well. And so let's just show off this tool real quick. So because I just want to look at some unique characteristics, I'm going to just reselect the attributes. I should change this to clear the attributes, which is what we're going to be looking at here. So in terms of scoring, okay, we're going to type in scoring. It is an easier scoring track that's already preset, pre-listed in there. I do want to add in another chart, kind of like the cheat sheet that already has that data listed on the top end here. I'll put that on my list of things to do. I think that's a good idea. But anyways, we're looking at easy scoring tracks, but also short tracks. I'm kind of curious, who are the top specialists when it comes to that? And so we're going to type in length, actually. And that's already preset to that. Now, it does have thicker rough. Typically, we could look at that. But just in terms of me being interested in that, let's take a peek. So in terms of averages here, we're looking at Adam Scott, Mingwoo Lee, Xander, Patrick Cantlay, Scottie, Rory. So nothing too shocking, I would say, when we're looking at that, but definitely interesting, I would say. Actually, it kind of pops up in there for scoring, easier scoring tracks. So just interesting there, I would say, to look at. Yeah, let's jump back into it. Just who are the best specialists then for this tournament? Xander, Scottie. I mean, really no shocks there, but the one that does stand out to me is actually Russell Henley. He's someone I'll touch on a little bit later on in this video. Justin Thomas, I do expect to bounce back. Not exactly the course where you would really expect him to play well last week, so interesting there. Shane Lowry. I do think it's interesting. I don't know if I mentioned this in the last video or not, but the whole Rory McIlroy meltdown to kind of make the cut, it was strange where he breaks the tee box marker with his driver after he hit into the rough and then ends up making a birdie on 18 to make the cut. I don't know. The stuff with him has been weird. He ended up throwing his club that round in round two. I blame Rory Foley for that, but I also do kind of blame Shane Lowry a little bit. Shane Lowry was playing like a little B word, and I do think that rubbed off on Rory, especially with them being friends, players that played at the Zurich Classic together. I don't know. I think the vibes were not correct. And I do want to applaud Rory for his round 4 round, even though that screwed me with some prop bets there where he ended up just having a good round. And I don't know if I necessarily want to get to him for the Travelers Championship, but if he can finish top 30 at a major when he clearly is not interested, I honestly don't know what to do with that because it's something that is obviously worrisome in terms of being able to predict how he's going to play. Is he going to be motivated to play well? Because if he's focused, we know the season that he's already had, he could be back in the winner's circle. He doesn't seem focused though, so I don't know what to do with that. What's your guys' take with Rory? Because I'm probably gonna stay away from him until the Open Championship. And he kind of mentioned if he can't get going for that, then does he retire? I don't know. Does he go to live? I don't know. It's kind of some weird stuff there with him. But that's kind of my long way of saying I wouldn't be surprised to see someone like Shane Lowry bounce back in this tournament here. Mingwoo Lee, someone that struggled. Obear and his price tag, guys, again this week is overpriced. I don't get it. Does this guy really have that much name value to him? I know he's got a fun smile. Had the Masters thing happen for him 2 years ago. It was kind of a fun thing with him and his caddy, but does his win that he had recently carry that much weight where he continues to be overpriced every single event? I would argue last week was finally properly priced-ish, and he ended up being terrible. Does the person that does the pricing or he must just have that much name value. I don't get the pricing of him because he's never that good of a play on paper. He wasn't even when he won. I don't really get. It's strange that keeps happening with him. Now let's just pull up the recent form here. We can talk about him. We'll take a peek at the golfers that are in the best recent form. Scotty, Sam Burns, Xander with his massive make cut streak, finally playing better. No finish worse than 30th. A bunch of make cuts. Ben Griffin's obviously playing some great golf. Phenomenal golf. I mean, guys, look at this. 10th, 2nd, 1st, 8th. And then, some bad starts mixed in there after his big victory that he had. Kind of makes sense. Victor Hovland's been playing some great golf. Tommy Fleetwood, even after his miscut on the number, double bogey on 18 to miss the cut. I mean, he would have missed the cut with a bogey, but the double bogey was just kind of whatever. Missed the cut on 18. Harry Hall's an interesting click this week. We'll touch on him. Keegan, but we have to continue to scroll until we get to Obear. I don't get he's just been an easy pass up on play this whole year. And I get that sounds strange knowing that he won an event, but he was priced as someone that should win the event at that event. It was strange. So let's go ahead now and just get into the top plays for this week. So yes, guys, this week is again a no-cut event. So with that, we do have to be planning accordingly because of that. I am actually surprised at the pricing that we're getting for Scotty Scheffler because he is kind of just the class of the field. Obviously has gotten a better result each and every start of this tournament over the last 4 years. 47th, 13th, 4th, and then won obviously last year. Key stat-wise, nothing concerning there. Nothing concerning data point-wise. He's actually pretty darn easy to fit into our builds this week. And so yes, I do think we can fit him into our builds. Now the issue with that is we're probably not going to be able to fit another stud into our builds. And it's just whether or not you want to fit 2 studs or fit Scotty and some other players that are going to score well. The issue is we know what Scotty's going to do most likely. From there, we have to kind of get a little bit lucky in terms of the golfers we're going to be on because the next best play to me is Xander. Xander has been playing, solid golf this year. He's been playing better golf this year as well since his injury that, I would say he probably would have another victory had it not been for his injury where he has been playing some lackluster golf. You can see the Xander from last year is there, on a front nine or, he just hasn't been able to piece together a full round. And even still, he's getting a 12th, 11th, and 18th place finishes. He's still finishing well. And so it wouldn't be surprising to see that click, potentially even this week. But even the issue with him is that he's not a good stat fit when we look at kind of those other those stats from this year. He just hasn't been playing good golf there. Now he has been improving, which is great. Basically, all of his stats are better or about the same as they have been. We like to see that. So his birdie or better percentage, 41st this season in the field, 2nd though in the field over his last 5. You like that. Strokes gained tee to green the last 5 has been 4th. Strokes gained total 12th. So he's been playing better golf recently. We like that there from him. And I do like the fact that we can get him at 16-1 on BetMGM. I do think that's a spot I'm going to get to. In terms of previous winners, he's one of the previous winners of this tournament. Now, the issue that we might have is we haven't really seen players win this tournament back-to-back or not back-to-back, but we haven't seen players win this event twice too much, like Bubba Watson, 2017, 2018, and then we have to go to 2010. So we don't typically see that happen. So maybe that would be a little bit strange, but it is a reduced field event. So, maybe that bodes well for him. But all in all, for PGA DFS purposes, I do think he's a good click. And then from there, it does get interesting. What do we do with Patrick Cantlay? Because I've touched on this a bunch already this year, is if we go to Patrick Cantlay and his results, for the most part, they've been somewhat every other tournament. If we go back further, now if we're looking at the last 7, not exactly the case, but even missed the cut at the US Open, 12th, missed cut at the PGA Championship, 4th, 13th, 36th, 33rd. He has been annoying. He really has. He's been a thorn in the side really this year. But he does have tremendous course history, a 5th, 13th and 13th. So good stuff there from him. Recent form, terrible, but a good stat fit, great specialist. Like, he is someone you would expect to show up. The issue with him is I don't know what his ownership is going to end up being. And so if he does become a player that people are going out of their way to target because of the fact that he's a good stat fit, because of that course history, because he's a good specialist, I might not play him. But if he's someone that's low owned, I do think he makes for a great upside play. I know a decent amount of people were on him last week, and that might have burned them, so I don't know if they're going to go back to him. And if that happens, then I think I'm going to be pretty excited to get to him for PGA DFS purposes. Then from there, guys, again, like Aubert, look at his form. So 44th best form in the field. Like how can we play him, right? And he like, ownership has never been egregiously low on him either, even though he's been mispriced. And even if he wins this week, which maybe he does, I mean, course experience, I guess it wouldn't be too shocking. I don't expect it. The data doesn't expect it, but I can't get to him. JT's interesting. You know, he's very hit or miss. Substrack has been hit or miss. He's interesting. Sam Burns, will he bounce back from that? He's playing great golf, right? He's been playing second best form in the field over his last 7 starts, including make cuts, like playing great golf. And we get him at that price tag, good enough stat fit, not the best course history. He's priced pretty cheap. I would say Victor Hovland's interesting as well. Do you think he guys had like the mental sweat of thinking he was actually going to win? I don't want to say I never, like, to me, the tournament really felt like it was Sam Burns like, for most of the tournament, I always felt like Sam Burns was going to win it. Besides like the final 2 holes of his first 9 or his round 1. And then he came back in round 2, and basically right away in round 2, I'm like, oh, he's playing extremely good golf. Round 3 happened, front 9 and round 4 happened. I'm like, okay, it really does feel like it's going to be Sam Burns to lose. And then obviously the weather delay hit. I did think that the weather delay then actually benefited Hovland a little bit, but other than that, I was struggling to get behind Hovland winning personally. That being said, 4 straight weeks of better results, right? From 54th, 28th, 25th to 3rd. And he is someone that has already won. He is playing better golf now, 5th best form in the field, has course experience, although albeit not great. I could see potentially getting to him as well. I don't hate the idea of him as an outright, but that's kind of the issue with the top end plays this week, guys. It is Scotty, and I do like Xander a bunch, but then they're just all mixed together. So to me, it's like Scotty, big jump, Xander, little jump, and then it's basically going to be an ownership thing, because I don't see that many differences between the players that are priced up other than those 2 that I called out. So let's go ahead now and jump into the dark horses range, the 8K range. And so to me, this is where we are getting a lot of our quality plays. I would expect Tommy Fleetwood to bounce back. Again, he just couldn't get things rolling. Missed the fairway on 18, and I'm missing the cut because of that. Russell Henley, though, to me is one of the more interesting clicks, I would say, this week. When we look at Russell Henley and just really his starts throughout this whole season have been a little bit annoying, I will say. We see the 8th at the RBC Heritage, 5th at the Memorial, 10th at the US Open. Like, he's had some very good weeks, just crushed us at the PGA Championship, crushed us at the Masters as well. Other than that, been pretty good. Okay, so this isn't a major. I do like the fact they did play well at the US Open. He is someone that has shown a bunch of upside already this season. You would argue he is due for a win. And if we look at all the specialist data, pretty good in most of the data points that we're looking at. The worst aspect of his game is he ranks 33rd in bank greens in the field. Okay, so we don't exactly love that. But overall, not terrible course history as well. At least he has it. 2 top 20 finishes, 48th last year. Don't love that. But good stat fit. Okay, when we look at the key stats for him, 4th in that effective birdie to bogey ratio, like that. Ball strike and total driving could be better, but not terrible, not concerning. It does rank 3rd in the field in good drive percentage. He is someone that you would kind of expect to win, and you can get him at about 40 to 1 for his outright odds. I think that's pretty solid. About 45 to 1 on some sites as well. From there, Corey Connors would be interesting. I think. So let's just talk about the annoying parts again from the US Open just real quick. So Tommy Fleetwood, double bogey on 18 to miss the cut. Sam Burns, weather delay kind of screwing us over there. Corey Connors, which roll was something I didn't even touch on. Which roll on Sunday. Now, who knows whether he would have got a lot of points, but he cited a wrist injury, which might have occurred in round 3 because things were rolling for him. He was -3 in round 3 on the front 9, the more difficult portion of the course, and then just blew up pretty much. Ends up withdrawing on Sunday. I think because of that, he might even withdraw from this tournament. Like, I probably don't even need to touch on him. I think because of that, we're going to not click him. It does suck, though, because him being priced this way, if he was good to go, fully good to go, and I don't think it's worth the risk, he would be someone we'd be playing a lot in DFS-wise. He's someone that we'd be betting on as well. But because of that, I just think we have to stay away. So from there, JJ Spawn, I don't want to play him coming in off that victory. Like, good for him. It was obviously a grind for him. And that does bring up a whole point to me as well. I don't know. What do you think about players like maybe Patrick Cantlay, who missed the cut on the number, Tommy Fleetwood, who, obviously missed the cut as well, where they didn't have to play on the weekend and grind out the U.S. Open as well, where they can just kind of write off that tournament, and players that were maybe in contention having to grind out that tournament, especially in that rain, in those conditions. Is there anything there? I don't think I want to get to JJ Spawn, but like this next player that I mentioned who ended up finishing runner-up, Robert McIntyre, I think he's a phenomenal play this week. Okay, Robert McIntyre finished 16th at this event last year. Phenomenal stat fit, top 10 in the field, stat fit wise, top 5 actually. Like, look at this, 11th, 7th, 16th, and 7th in the most key stats this week. That's huge. Specialist wise, 26, don't necessarily love that, but top 10 in recent form, just someone that really does kind of check the boxes for you. Now, he's someone that kind of, I don't want to say he fell into second place, almost fell into a victory, but he kind of did. Like, he played good enough, don't get me wrong, they're not taking away from him. And his clap on 18, I don't know if you guys saw it, and I'm sure you guys have all seen it, but he was giving me Joker vibes with his clap when he was watching from, it wasn't the clubhouse, but the scoring booth. It gave me Joker vibes. If you guys haven't seen that, check it out. It's just funny. But I think he would make for a good outright bet as well. Like, both Henley and Robert McIntyre were two of my first clicks outright wise. And it is recency bias. I get that, but they're also good fits. So interesting there. Shane Lowry, you would expect to bounce back. He's been annoying, been someone that when you trust him, he let you down. Ben Griffin, obviously great form, 4th best in the field, just playing phenomenal golf. He wasn't Ben Griffin the way he is now, right? Ben Griffin's playing great golf. I would say I like the fact that he does have the course experience, even though it's a 67th and 96. Still, I think that's fine. I think we can get to him as well. So with that, let's go ahead now and jump on into the low tier. Okay, so like Taylor Pendrith to me is someone we can look at. Ended up making the cut last week. Now, what I don't like is that his form is getting worse each start. Okay, so last week 38th, then the week before that 27th, 12th, and 5th. So it is getting worse, but has made 5 straight cuts in a row. Has course experience, finished 23rd at this event last year. Relatively good stat fit, very good total driver and ball striker. Not terrible, good drive percentage as well. 18th in the field there. I wish he was cheaper. And then we look at Cameron Young. So Cameron Young is interesting. A lot of the fantasy golf betting community, I don't know if it's a bit or not. They seem to bet on him all the time. And I think it's a bit. I think people are messing around. I hope so. But like, this is the first week in which he actually seems like someone we could be interested in betting on this week, potentially to win. We all know what Cameron Young looked like 2 years ago. Seemed like he was going to be, player of the future on the PGA Tour. Hasn't exactly came through just yet, but 2 solid weeks in a row in tougher tracks. Not the best outfit for this tournament, but kind of like Xander, where things have been better recently. Maybe you could get there. Finished top 10 at this event last year. I could see that. But with that, guys, let's take a peek at the outright tags. I'm actually curious. How many good outright bets do we have? We have a laundry list of good outright bets. And so we didn't hit a good outright bet last week. Okay, so I think it's like 10 out of the last 13 winners have been good outright bets. 14 of the players have been a player that has had an outright tag of some sort, whether it's, possible outright bet or long shot bet. Now in these higher caliber fields, obviously the better players are playing it, the higher the threshold of golfers is. That's going to be, a typical winner on the PGA Tour, which is what this data is registering. So for those that don't know, what this data is looking at is these golfers meet the 80th percentile of golfers that have won on the PGA Tour over the past several seasons. Then the possible outright bets is 70%, and then the other one is, I think I'm getting that wrong. I think it's 90%, 80%, and 70%. So 70% would be the long shot bets only. But we do have a lot of golfers that we could potentially get to. So Robert McIntyre's popping up in there. Russell Henley's popping up in there as a good outright bet. Maybe Hovland is someone we could get to. But we do have a big list of golfers that are, prototypical winners on the PGA Tour. That's my long way of saying Cameron Young's not listed there. I'm actually curious. Long shot bet, is he there potentially? No. And then possible outright bet? Let's see. No. So I made this whole spiel about just trust the data more. So I'm not going to be betting him to win. I did that during last week's video. But let's take a peek here now. From there, who else could we get to? Tony Finau's been playing fine golf. Maybe him. Harris English was, a bit of a letdown on the weekend for sure. I did put out a tweet on the 9 to 5 Golf Twitter account just talking about players that were below 7K that were likely to make the cut. Robert McIntyre was actually number 1 and was like a third of the ownership as Harris English. I mentioned that's a good pivot that actually helped me out a decent amount in some GPPs by kind of making a rule of that in some spots. But interesting there. Am Scott definitely blew up on Sunday after the weather delay. Like, what do we do with that, right? Like, I don't know. I really don't know. But he's someone that I think we could look at. But really, all the golfers in this kind of range, besides Harry Hall, who I do like Harry Hall a decent amount, has course experience, fine staff fit, like top 15 in the field. Recent form has been solid as well. 7th best in the field as well. Now, if we look at some of his starts, they haven't necessarily been, the biggest fields. Didn't play at the U.S. Open, but played well at the RBC Canadian Open, 6th at the Charles Schwab Challenge, 20th at the PGA Championship, 20th at the Myrtle Beach Classic. Like, he's just been playing great golf. I love the fact that we're getting him at this cheap price tag. And so the fact that we can play him potentially with Scotty, I like that. And if you look at some of the odds, like maybe, I doubt it, but I could maybe entertain him as an outright bet at 110 to 1 on FanDuel. I could potentially see doing that. I probably won't, but I probably could be talked into it as well. Okay. So again, like lineup process wise, obviously we're going to be going with Scotty with the studs and duds build, but I do think we can get to Harry Hall, and he's priced at 7.1. That actually bumps up the average salary remaining of players that we could potentially get to there as well. So now we go ahead and jump on into that value tier. We get a lot of interesting plays. But what this is probably going to come down to, because I don't see that big of separation between the plays, is just who's the lowest owned in terms of who's like a decent enough play. Matt Fitzpatrick's down there. Max Graceman's also been playing great golf. Like, look at him. Last 4 starts, all pretty solid. Top 50% in the field, even better than that. Nick Taylor's shown upside this year. Nick Taylor's actually a pretty good staff fit, has course experience. Could definitely talk myself into him. Bud Colley's been someone that's been hit or miss. He's someone that I would just naturally think would be a better fit for a shorter track. Thomas Dietrich playing okay golf, maybe someone we could think about. Andrew Novak, obviously won on the PGA Tour. I don't necessarily see with him, but top 20 in terms of recent form. Sam Stevens, this is one of those ones that did stick out to me. So he's a top 25 staff fit, does have course experience, not great, but also been playing fine golf. Like 8 straight make cuts on the PGA Tour, top 25 place finish last week. If we're trying to do studs and duds, what we want from him is to finish, one, better than his price tag. I think we got a good chance of him doing that. And then also just top 50% in the field. Again, if we're paying up for Scotty, a potential, top 10 finish, top 5 hopefully with Scotty, then yeah, Sam Stevens makes a ton of sense. I'm going to be clicking on him a decent amount this week. Then if we go a little bit lower, like Kevin Yu is someone that's interesting to me as well. We know he's a great total driver, great ball striker, pretty good in terms of effective birdie to bogey ratio, good enough, good drive percentage. And I would even argue he's someone you could potentially toy around with as, again, another long shot bet. I'd potentially like bet on the line if you guys are someone that bets there 150 to 1. I mean, that's definitely stands out to me. It probably shouldn't be happening just because he's had these upside finishes. So Charles Schwab Challenge, miscut. RBC Canadian Open, 3rd. Myrtle Beach Classic, 4th. He does have upside finishes. And again, this is a course that you would think naturally would be a better fit for him. Now, it's not necessarily true in terms of his specialist rank, 66 in the field, like not good. But we're trying to catch some upside. We're trying to catch some that can score. And we do see that with his birdie or better percentage. 8th in the field in terms of birdie or better percentage. And so he's probably someone I'm going to begin to with Scotty Scheffler builds as well. So with that, guys, when I get into the hand build portion of this video, which I'm about to get into here, just note we're going to kind of do 2. One with the core plays that I'm going to show you guys here in just a second, and then one with fitting Scotty in there. You guys can choose maybe which one you guys like the most or kind of what line of path you're going to be going with. But let's go ahead and now and get into the core plays. So core play number 1 is actually going to be Harry Hall for me. Again, I think we can toy around with him at those plus or those 100 to 1 numbers and more for outright purposes. But in terms of PGA DFS, I do think he's solid. The form has been pretty solid. I mean, top 25 finishes or better in his last 4 starts. Course history, he has it. I don't want to complain about that. Top 15 stat fit. If we can get a top 25 or better finish out of him, I think that's pretty darn huge. Now, from there, if you're not getting to Scotty, I do like Xander. Okay, I like Xander's price tag. I think he's a decent outright bet at 14 to 1. Form has been overall pretty solid this year. We do need him to take that next step because how he's played recently, it does seem like he's knocking on the door to be his former self, although I do want to see it first. And we haven't exactly seen that thus far, but he is a former winner at this event. Overall, has played it pretty well. Not a good stat fit given the season-long stats that we've seen with him, but I do think there's a great chance for him to finish top 10. And obviously, if we're playing him, that does make the lineup process easier. I do like Russell Henley as an outright bet. I do worry about the hit or miss nature of him. It is strange. Like, he is someone that, in terms of GPPs, I'm going out of my way to target. I do like him a lot as an outright bet at 45 to 1. I don't know if I necessarily see him as a cash play, though, which is, if I have someone as a core play, you guys would typically think they're going to be a cash play. Really, again, it just depends on your lineup process for the week, because let's say someone like Russell Henley maybe doesn't have a good week. Maybe he finishes 30th. We probably could get those same points from someone like Kevin Yu then, who's priced significantly cheaper than him. It is some risk there. I do think the reward is definitely there, though, for GPP purposes. And that's kind of how I look at this week with a no-cut event. Cash, we're probably doing more studs and duds. GPPs, we can get a little bit more unique with our approach. But then the last core play is going to be Robert McIntyre. Again, the question with him that we have to ask ourselves is, will he be mentally fine? Will he be mentally ready to go? And I think that he will. 45 to 1 odds, I think is pretty solid. Form has been solid, 2nd, 36th, 20th, and 6th. Course history, finished 16th at this event last year. Loved that. Top 5 stat fit. I think he's a really solid play overall. So, like, ideally, this would be kind of a lineup process that we'd be looking at. But again, I do like getting to Scotty. I do like getting to Harry Hall. Kevin Yu, again, I think someone that can score. Sam Stevens, I do like a decent amount. With this lineup approach, maybe we'd get to Ben Griffin instead. Like, I think I'd be fine with this. Like, we're fitting Scotty in there, but we're also not going too studs and dudsy. Let's just take another quick peek, though, can we get Xander in there logically? We have to get off of Robert McIntyre. Probably have to add, see, that's where it gets tough. And so if you don't go Scotty, you go Xander, you can obviously still fit Henley into that build. You can fit McIntyre, and you don't necessarily have to go with that much of a studs and duds build. But to be clear, if we're playing something like Xander, I do want to get at least one other stud, but probably two. Like Hovland, I mentioned I like a decent amount. Patrick Cantley, depending on his ownership, we could get to there as well. So with that being said, let's just go ahead and take a peek at what the 9 to 5 lineup optimizer is telling us is going to be the best build. And actually, just out of curiosity, I did just do the 9 to 5 custom model with doing the 9 to 5 model rank only in there, just to see kind of what it'd be spitting out to us for some optimal builds. I don't like it. Let's put it that way. Adam Hadwin, Ben Griffin, Brian Harmon, Danny McCarthy, Jordan Spieth, Scotty. So it is still trying to get to Scotty a decent amount. Let's actually see 35% Scotty. Getting to Collin Morikawa a decent amount. Matthew Pavon, I don't think we need to get there that much. That's interesting that he's popping up that much. I would rather get to Stevens, as I mentioned. But we are seeing it's spread out. It is spreading out the ownership a decent amount when we do it that way. So then I did go into the more traditional, 9 to 5 lineup builder here, which most of you guys are probably familiar with by now. It is getting a more balanced build. Scotty Scheffler, Robert McIntyre, Dana Berger, Harry Hall, Jason Day, and Ryan Gerard, which Ryan Gerard I think is a fine value play as well. I don't know if, I probably like Harry Hall more than Jason Day. I'm kind of fine double dipping. I'd probably rather get to Nick Taylor than Jason Day, but we are seeing more of a balanced approach here. But it is definitely trying to force in Scotty Scheffler this week. And so that is going to do it for this video. I do appreciate you guys being here. If you guys enjoyed the coverage, make sure to give a like, subscribe to the channel if you guys have not done so before. If you guys would like access to the tools at 9to5sports.com, head on over there. You guys can get access to all the tools for a low monthly cost of $10 a month. I am working on updating some of the tools to fit more like the 9 to 5 custom model, which is more mobile friendly for sure. I'll get like some of the betting pages, some of the showdown pages update that way. And maybe I'll have a cheat sheet light version that's like that. I'm still going to keep the cheat sheet the way it is as well, though. But I do want to just make some tools a little bit more mobile friendly for some people there as well. So check that out, guys. Again, all the tools are available on the website, including prop tools for $10 a month, low monthly cost for you guys there. That's going to do it. Thank you for watching. Again, leave a like and subscribe. That's appreciated. Good luck with all your bets this week. Good luck with all your lineups. Appreciate you being here. Good luck. And as always, let's keep cashing.